Thanks for clicking. So before we get any further into this mini-series, we just wanted to take a moment to stop and say what we're doing and why it may not be for you. So what it is to have a de-Googled phone, you, one, revert back an operating system. So we'll get into like a little bit more about that. But in order to be de-Googled and for you to have the benefits of fewer transmissions for RF and for minimized tracking, you need to change your app patterns, so like what you use, and you can't physically access things like Facebook, Google Maps, Instagram, all of the stuff that many of us are kind of addicted to. And why that is going to be an issue for some people, so why that may not be for everyone, why this project may not be for everyone.
Right. So that's a good summary. So what happened for me was, it's sort of like, okay, finally I've got a phone that doesn't transmit all the time. Every time I picked up my my Apple iPhone before, it would transmit just from the accelerometers. Every time I used an app, it would send out data, and it's just like, okay, we were talking about this. I don't care. I don't have anything to hide. It's just, it's kind of annoying to me that some organization, whatever it is, we don't have to get into that right now. It's just like, it's being used, developers may want to know from, how many people are using their apps, when they're using their apps, and it's fine. It's just, in the effort to reduce RF exposure, it's just like, I don't need this phone to transmit to tell Apple when I'm using every app, even a calculator that doesn't require internet access, right?
Why do they need to know when you're using half these apps?
Oh, that's a whole other video, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
That's a lot.
So the de-Googled phone solves that problem. Fantastic. But we got talking, and it's like, okay, so there's a few things that you've got to understand before you carry on in this project. A de-Googled phone. So really, any app that's available on the Google Play Store, especially apps that are purchased, that becomes a problem. Now you can still install Google apps if you want to. Then you lose the whole point of
de-Googling the phone.
De-Googling the phone.
De-Googling.
That's a mouthful. So you'll notice, we're going to talk about this in the future, but many apps have what's called GSF, or Google Services Framework, and it's just assumed pretty much nowadays that if you have an Android phone, it's going to be a Google phone and you're going to log into Google. It's just assumed that, and it doesn't have to be the case. And so it's just a different way of thinking. And Kayla was talking about this. It's like, okay, so back in 2009, I left Facebook. And social outcast.
Pariah.
Right, pariah. And, interestingly enough, about a month ago, I tried Instagram again just for a week, and then I just got this horrible feeling, and I found myself sitting there going, oh, what? And then it's just like, oh, this is what social media addiction is again. And so it's not that you can't use these apps, but where you get these apps from, and then if you check the status or what's required in these apps, there's going to be these Google Services Framework in there. So if you're the type of person that, like I was, I'm sort of reminiscent of the early days of phones where you could talk to somebody, like actually have a phone call with somebody. Mind you, I don't do it like this, I do it with speakerphone because it's a cell phone, right?
Safe distance.
But an actual conversation with somebody, then being able to send text messages, sending and receiving emails, and then the cool thing about this kind of phone is like, okay, well, if you want a weather app or a calculator or in my case an instrument tuner app or something like that, you can do that as well.
The Tesla app for driving.
Right, if your car has an app to communicate with it, that kind of thing. So cool. So just to use it as a phone and as a tool. When you get into this social media thing, then it's sort of like, oh, okay, then you've got all these other apps. And so I guess we just wanted to make sure that if you're seriously considering going down this pathway of de-Googling a phone, which we'll get into great detail about this, then just so your eyes are wide open as to what to expect. And for me, it was a further opportunity to support my desire to not only lower RF exposure because the phone isn't transmitting, but also to keep it focused that this phone is a tool for certain purposes only. And if I want to indulge in social media or whatever, it's not going to be through this device. It's going to be sitting in front of a computer or something like that.
Slightly less convenient and easily accessed.
Exactly, yes. Less convenient and maybe possibly less
addicting.
So I think actually in this day and age, if you are looking, I mean, there was that well-known movie that came out recently, The Social Dilemma. I think that woke up a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that would like to make a strong effort to distance themselves. So a de-Googled phone might be a method for you to a tool that can help you kind of pull yourself away and get back to me it's sort of like what is the best of a smartphone, what can a smartphone do aside from all the negative things that are associated with social media addiction.
Remove the smartphone and become a wise phone.
A wise phone. Yeah, maybe we'll maybe use that expression. Instead of carrying a smartphone, we'll call it a wise phone.
That's a smart.
Let's do that.
More of a wise.
Okay, so in future videos, we'll call them wise. We'll call what we're doing the creation of wise phones.
Yeah,
right?
And you can still send mixed media, so images and pictures through text. You don't need to use Messenger or WhatsApp, which also tracks your information because it's owned by Facebook.
Right. So think of who owns these apps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's wrong with sending a text message? You can send multimedia text messages to anybody, and most carriers, it's free, unlimited, you know, depending on your plan. But, you know, so make use of that. Now, of course, if you want to reach a large audience, then there's the Facebook and Twitter and things like that. So maybe this kind of phone is not going to be for you. Or you could start with this and wind up turning it into a regular Google phone. I guess you could do that as well. Yeah. But this at least gives you the option. I felt I had used Android a few years ago. I've been using Apple for a long time. And increasingly with the operating system updates and things like that, I've been feeling more and more trapped and lack of control over what I could and couldn't share. Again, not that there's anything to hide.
No.
But
becomes why do they need to know this information?
Right. And maybe we can have a video about that, right?
Yeah.
So
go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So thanks for sticking with us and stay tuned for the next episode.